And in my view, what had happened in the previous administration is that we focused very much on enforcement. And because of that, it could be said that there were abuses by certain elements in the government. Certain elements in the government. Yes, we are attending to what can be considered to be the most critical areas. They may have, because of the situation in the geopolitical world right now, the wide-ranging discussions that we have had, and the wide-ranging discussions that we have had have come up with some concrete proposals that now our governments will go away and study and try to find. The cabinet and some of the rest of the official delegation. We also had brought with us many members of the private sector. That this visit has become a very, has certainly set the direction very clearly. And it is important in this volatile situation, this volatile setting, that clarity must be there, so as we are very clear in what we intend to do, what roles we play, and what positions we take on certain issues. And that, I think, we have largely achieved on this trip.
Thank you. You mentioned labor rights and human rights, and a week and a half ago, in response to the tragic murder of Alex De La Rosa, your Department of Justice issued a very strong statement condemning the culture of impunity in the Philippines, arguing that it will not be allowed to stand. Could you elaborate a bit on what your administration...
Critical of the human rights situation of the Philippines derived from the policy that we undertook to fight the drug war. And perhaps and in my view, what had happened in the previous administration is that we focused very much on enforcement. And because of that, it could be said that there were abuses by certain elements in the government, and that has caused some concern with many, in many quarters, about the human rights situation in the Philippines. Well, I cannot speak to what my predecessor had in mind and what his idea was, but what I can speak to is the policy that syndicates have grown stronger and wealthier and more influential, worryingly so. But instead of going after everyone, we have tried to identify the key areas where we have that we have to tackle, the key areas that we have to attend to, so that we can see a diminution of the activity of the drug syndicates. To this end, we have just finished, we instituted a process by which we asked. The problem lies in enforcement. And some of our law enforcement officers have been sucked in to these terrible systems that have enriched themselves at the cost of the lives of all the police officers from colonel level up. And we have received about, 917 resignations, and we are now in the process of looking through the records of these officers to see those that have had derogatory comments, those that have evidence against them. As of today, 2 of those very high-ranking, I think general rank, have already been removed from, have been separated from the service. And there are still over 30 cases that are being administratively investigated. And that will continue. And if anything is found that that is that implicates any of them to have been to be involved in any of these activities, then we will start to develop the cases against them, and in that way dismantle this terrible system that has grown up and has become. Change in policy, I believe, is much more focused. I always say that the previous administration had focused on enforcement. We have taken enforcement as far as we can. Now it is time to look at actually going after dismantling these syndicates. And before that, we should also look at not the rehabilitation of those who have already fallen into this drug culture, which has destroyed their lives. Further back to that process is also a process of re-education, of explaining, especially to our young people, what the potential damage is to their lives should they be involved in this way. Not only as users, not only as addicts, but also as dealers and operators of these syndicates. And so it is we are looking at the problem as a whole. We start with the errant policemen. We go back to the rehabilitation process for those who have unfortunately fallen. Will never enter into that kind of lifestyle, to continue to educate and to give options to our young people, so that they are not tempted to indulge in these activities.
Thank you. Now, before we turn to the online and in-person audience, I have one more question. We have to address the elephant in the room. China continues to harass Filipino mariners on a dangerous basis. Just last week, we had a near collision with the Philippine Coast Guard vessel Batang in control, and China has been highly critical of your moves to deepen the alliance with the U.S. How can you maintain a stable relationship with Beijing while still defending Philippine sovereignty?
Well, in the same way that we maintain a relationship with the U.S., we constantly consult with our allies and our partners. We constantly keep our lines of communications open. When I went to see President Xi in Beijing last January, I proposed, so as to avoid these incidents, these unfortunate incidents that we see every so often, such as the blocking of our fishermen from their fishing grounds, such as the intimidation, really, of many of our maritime forces. I suggested that to avoid these instances, I suggested that we institute a system wherein we have a direct contact, one president to the other. And in that way, no matter if I cannot speak, for example, to President Xi himself, I have someone that I can pick up the phone and call who I know and I have confidence in making my message arrive to the president. And this works, of course, both ways. That if the president of the People's Republic would like a message to arrive to me, then that we have a system in place. We have a system in place to achieve that. And we are still working on it. Our Secretary of Foreign Affairs is working on the details of that. Engagement is really not an option. We try to balance. In my first State of the Nation is almost simplistic when I describe it, because our foreign policy is based on the pursuit of peace. Our foreign policy is based on the promotion of our national interest. Now, the promotion of our national interest include the defense of our territorial integrity and of our sovereignty. And that is what that we are working on now. And I think that as long as we continue that process, as long as we continue to engage, as long as we continue to assure all our partners, not only China, but all our partners, the ASEAN member states, all the countries in Asia, all those we now include in the Indo-Pacific region, that we have an open and clear and available system to be able to communicate with one another, to have a very open and candid exchange of views, and to explain what it is, a more serious situation than it is already now. We certainly do not want to cause an incident by misjudgment, by mistake, that will elevate the conflict from what it is now to a higher level. And that is not the work of a day or a week or a month. It is something that is ongoing, and that really should never end. And that's, in my view, is the only way to keep the levels of confrontation, the levels of misunderstanding to a manageable level.
Thank you.